Sony, what's happening? What's going on? Are we? I mean, I don't want to say are we okay, because it doesn't seem like we're okay. It seems like things are going a little off the rails. And listen, overall, I liked the Venom 3: The Last Dance trailer. I thought it was cool, but like, what the heck is going on in this scene where they're at the bar from the Marvel Cinematic Universe? I was working on a video, I like writing it. I don't think I'm ever going to make it. The bit was going to be, the whole video was going to be like, so you want to build the cinematic universe, but only looking at it from the perspective of like, do what Sony did. One of the pillars of their of the Sony model was going to be deception, and it was just like, put some esoteric bullshit in there that only the nerds will care about, that will confound them. Like, hey, why is he walking by this poster of Spider-Man? Or like, wait, in that shot of the skyline in the Morbius trailer, is that the Oscorp from Amazing Spider-Man 2? Or the big one, the Vulture, just showing up and being like, hey, what's up, Doc? I know who you are. I'm clearly the Vulture from the other universe. And then when you actually get to the movie, it's completely different. It makes even less sense. He just comes up and is like, hey, I hope the food's better here. I don't mind being in a new universe where I might not exist or have a daughter or any of the stuff I care about. And I want to get Spider-Man. I think this has something to do with Spider-Man. I've said this before. That is an insane thing to think. And I Michael Keaton Vulture, Adrian Toomes from Earth 199999. You don't think that. You think this has something to do with Thanos. If they told you who Thanos is, which I imagine they did, and you got, because he was in jail, but like, I figured they tell you some things in jail. Even if he got snapped and he came back and he was like, whoa, what happened? He would come back to jail. That's how it seems to work. Maybe there'd be like somebody else in his cell, but like, he would be in jail. You'd ask him what happened and say, oh, Thanos, big purple guy. If you ever got teleported into another dimension or something, you go, I guess this is a Thanos thing, right? You wouldn't go like, I knew it. This has to be the doings of that child who went to school with my daughter and built a costume out of a hoodie. This is probably his business. This got his name all over it. You know, the bit where Morbius pretends to be Venom in that trailer that makes no sense considering Venom never happens, and the part in that Morbius trailer. There's so many of these are from the Morbius trailer, but we're doing them here too, because as people have pointed out, and listen, overall we'll talk about the trailer, but as people pointed out, Cheatwell Ejiofor's character, who appears to be the head of a jury, I believe, which is the Venom Destruction Task Force thing, is hunting symbiotes. Makes sense. Finally, somebody in this universe is doing that, besides, I guess, Carlton Drake, who was doing that before. And he's got a collection of them. And one of the ones he has is he puts a little glass over the one from the post-credits scene for Spider-Man No Way Home, which was like the one where there's a little bit of Venom in the MCU now. So it's like, oh man, that can bond with Peter and create the black suit. Like, made perfect sense. It's not like, you know, the easiest, most logical way to introduce that, but like, as far as ways to put that into the story, fine. We all watched that movie, so we all know that happened. And Danny Rojas from Ted Lasso was the bartender there who was talking to Eddie, and Eddie was getting the details on all the supervillains and stuff. Also, it seems like the Venom hive mind, like the symbiote hive mind, was able to connect and figure out who Peter Parker is. So then Eddie Brock and Venom leave that universe, leave the symbiote behind, and for some reason, the character played by Cheatwell Ejiofor in this movie, who is just a guy in charge of a mercenary army, doesn't seem to have the power to change dimensions or whatever, and doesn't seem to be magic like, you know, the other character played by Cheatwell Ejiofor in those movies, Baron Mordo, who is still alive, as far as we know, and Danny Rojas, the bartender, is still there. So how did he get that? And why does he have it? Like, this feels like it must have been a lot of work, right? You have to get back to the bar. You have to animate the little symbiote, which is nothing. You have to get Danny Rojas back. Yes, I know this actor has a name. I'm not gonna, this will always be his name. And then Cheatwell Ejiofor, he has to come in for this scene. And like, so they can't have just made it for the trailer, like that line from the Zack Snyder Justice League movie where the Joker says something about society, where you're like, oh, they did make that just for the trailer because it's not in the movie. Or the bit where Morbius walks by Spider-Man's side. It's like, this is something they presumably have in this movie. And after seeing Madam Web and researching Madam Web and becoming the foremost internet expert on Madam Web, you could convince me no one making Venom The Last Dance ever asked that question. Went, wait, isn't this supposed to be in the other universe? He can't get this. We'll just have this scene take place somewhere else, and that's fine. Maybe somewhere from Venom 2, like the prison or the church or any of the scenes where Carnage was happening. Like, all that would be fine. But no, it's gonna be the one place where the Venom symbiote should be, where this character cannot possibly go. It's just fascinating. Like, after Madam Web, you could convince me that this is a coincidence, Like they didn't even know that they filmed him with the same actors and the same setting. This is like a different scene that somehow someone made, and then now they're getting all this pushback and they're going, oh my God, it does look like the Spider-Man No Way Home scene. I'll believe anything. I'll believe they made it on purpose to trick us, except I feel like there's cheaper versions of this that they can have done. So yeah, I don't know. It's really weird. I hope it's not in the movie at all, and I hope it continues this wonderful streak of the Spider-Man movies made by Sony, all featuring some sort of weird, misleading bit in the trailer that seems to exist only to confuse nerds. Overall, the rest of the trailer, fine. You know, it's like Venom. He's doing his weird Venom voice, and he's a fugitive somewhere. He's gonna be fighting a big monster thing that I think we've figured out is a monster from the comics that eats symbiotes, like actually goes and hunts them down. So that's something, I guess. And the big thing that I think is really interesting, we didn't know this, and I still haven't said this is confirmed, but there was a leak or a report a while ago. I want to say this is a leak because this is like what the story will be, and there's no way, if this is the story, that this will not be the second trailer. So like technically, potentially, maybe spoilers, but you know, I would be shocked if they hide this all the way till the movie. So there was report that the movie Venom 3 was going to be about Venom hunting down Spider-Man because he knows Spider-Man is going to kill him or something because of the Venom hive mind. And he goes to find him, but then he's like, oh no, this kid's cool. I like him. I'll, not only raise him, but like protect him because all the other symbiotes, because of the hive mind, also want to kill this kid. And then they want to kill Venom to get to him, I guess. Now, originally my thought was like, it's all convenient, right? That seems to be the plot line that was ripped out of Madam Web. So like now it's here. It's like, that probably isn't. They probably didn't do that in this too. And throughout most of the trailers, like, oh yeah, it's just a regular kind of Venom running away from symbiotes and symbiote hunters kind of movie. That's, and there's like a new supporting cast, sure. And then in the trailer, you see this kid with two women that are at least one of them is a caretaker of his. So it would make sense. And one could be his mom and one could be his aunt. And then there's another shot in the trailer where we see Rhys Ifans, which I'm not even going to try to figure out here, the guy who played the Lizard, in a van. And you can see the back of that kid's head in the van. And I think on the left side of that shot, you can see what's pretty much the Eddie Brock shoulder, which is like the one like kind of, I don't know, Hawaiian shirt or whatever it is that he wears. You kind of see the pattern of that. So it seems like he meets this family and then goes with them somewhere. I don't know if he like sneaks in or if he's like, hey, I'm a symbiote. I'm here to save your kid. I don't know. We might be doing 10-year-old Peter Parker story, which if that's true, would totally explain why so much of the Peter Parker story was cut out of Madam Web. Why no one ever calls him Peter Parker. Why no one is out to kill Peter Parker specifically, even though that is clearly what they should be doing. It's because someone saw that and then realized that that's the same plot of Venom and went, well, we got to get this out of one of these movies. Which one do we expect to hit less? Madam Web? Okay. We'll just give Madam Web whatever plot we can come up with. And then Venom 3 can have the everybody's trying to kill little Peter Parker plotline. I don't know. Again, a year ago you tell me this, I think that's pretty silly. But I mean, that's not how a movie studio works. But now, after learning more and more about Madam Web, yeah, I could buy it. I could be convinced. And you know what? I don't even think it's going to really hurt the movie. I think this movie will probably still make money. People like this character. I think the movie looks like it could be kind of fun. He dances with Mrs. Jen. The action looks about as good as the other ones. The idea of some sort of Venom hunting police force is a good idea. It is, I believe, one of my One Small Change like pitches, which this isn't like that genius of an idea. It's like, have people try to arrest Venom in robot suits designed to get Venom. I had the Spider Slayers be part of the plotline. I thought that was pretty clever. But the jury makes sense. That's a very Venom thing. And then maybe have other symbiotes show up like Scream or Lash or whatever. I think all that makes sense. Toxin's back. Like, I think the problem with like predicting whether this one will work or not is like none of them are particularly good, but they're kind of fun and people like them kind of, and they seem to make an okay amount of money. I will say the other movie that usually got described that way was Aquaman, and we just saw Aquaman perform not nearly as well as the first one. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if this new movie performs weirdly, like doesn't perform the way we'd expect, especially because it's the last one. It feels like one of the things about cinematic universes is like this audience buy-in of like, it's important to keep seeing them because the next one will have more stuff I like in it. And like, maybe if this is the last dance, is that, can you sell it as this big finale? Or is it like, well, I don't need to watch that. It's the last one, whatever. I don't know. I don't know how people are going to react to it. I hope by the end he gets the Spider-Man symbol at least, because I think he needs that. It's the one thing, like, I think the Venom design looks pretty cool most of the time, what they do with it. And I like it when they give other people Venom. Like when he turns the horse into Venom, that looks pretty sick. And I do think giving the Venom costume more of those white accents that are what you remember from the comic, I think could be a good idea. What else? Juno Temple's in it, sure. I liked her in Fargo this season. Oh, Rhys Ifans, sure, let's talk about him. Traditionally the Lizard, but seems to be in this as maybe some sort of hippie that seems to be traveling with the Parkers, if that is what they are. And there's a chance they're just some random family, but it seems it matches this stupid report too well. Like that, it's gotta be the case. So like I could be convinced that's not what happens, but like it seems like what's happening. It seems like he's not going to be playing Dr. Connors, the Lizard, which makes sense because he has both of his arms, but it would be pretty funny if Venom knew that. Like Venom could tell, like, oh, this is the Lizard, I saw this in the hive mind or whatever, and realize like he's gonna lose his arms and be a bad guy, so he protects his arms, and it turns into the hot tub time machine bit where that guy, they know he's gonna get his arm cut off, and just like, is this it? Is this it? You know, I would never have been like, oh yeah, they should have put that in this movie, but now that I know Rhys Ifans is in it, I'm like, yeah, go for it. I don't know. It's super weird that he's in it. It's so weird that how many other people from other Marvel stuff is it, and not that I'm saying, but it's just kind of like there's other actors, you know, like there's plenty of actors that would do this, but you know, whatever, it'll probably be fine. It's probably going to be one of the higher grossing movies of this year, just because Venom's traditionally kind of unpredictable and tends to do well. One other thing I'll say about it, the description for this movie reads so much more serious than it is. This is the actual synopsis. This is the official synopsis for this movie. In Venom: The Last Dance, Tom Hardy returns as Venom, one of Marvel's greatest and most complex characters, for the final film in the trilogy. Eddie and Venom are on the run, hunted by both of their worlds, and with the net closing in, the duo are forced into a devastating decision that will bring the curtains down on Venom and Eddie's last dance. So he's described as one of Marvel's greatest and most complex characters. I don't even think he's like the most complex Venom. Honestly, I think that's probably Agent Venom. Also, like, I don't know. If they said one of Marvel's most iconic characters, I would still be like, probably not, but sure. There's people that you could make that argument. Like, oh, he's a very memorable design. He's very popular. It was one of those characters that kind of people immediately saw and were like, that's cool. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't think I'd say the greatest. Definitely not the most complex character in a world with like all of the X-Men, in a world with the mutant who survived the Holocaust and now has become the militant leader of the mutants who has to protect them and like has to balance this, you know, wanting peace, but also like, I'm so scared of what humanity will do. I've seen the worst of humanity. Like, yeah, not quite as complex as Magneto, not as complex as, you know, the Catholic boy who is blinded and has to rely on his senses for extra superpowers, but also feels guilty about a lot of the crimes he commits and has girlfriends that all die. Like, not as complex as Daredevil. Like, I'm just looking at like my shelf, just kind of picking out certain characters. I don't know, is that more complex than like Legion, Baron Zemo? I don't know, Kingpin. Who else we got there? Scarlet Witch. Not even close. I would say there's very few Marvel characters in the cinematic universe that have action figures that I'm like, Venom is more complex than them. Like, looking at this, I don't know, Katie from Shang-Chi, Venom seems to be a little bit more complex than her, but I don't know, man, even Thor, I wouldn't have thought he was the most complex character, but now I do think there's a strong case to be made that he's a more complex character than Venom. Either way, Sony, do whatever you want to sell this movie. Movie theaters are all dying anyway, so we need to get people to go see movies, and if Venom's gonna be the thing that saves movie theaters, then that's great. But man, what a weird trailer. I did not expect to see a scene from the Marvel Cinematic Universe that completely makes no sense, and I kind of love it. So I'm excited for Venom: The Last Dance. Sony, please don't edit it into oblivion and replace all the lines with other lines. I know you love to do that. Also, please release Kraven eventually. That's all I got. Stay safe. I'll see you next time.